The first time Seo Do-yoon saw his wife standing in front of a bridal resale shop, holding her wedding dress in the rain, he did not get out of the car. He did not call her name. He did not ask why her hands were shaking. He simply sat inside the black sedan, staring through the rain-streaked window, while the woman he had once promised to protect handed over the most precious dress she owned. The dress she had cried in. The dress she had smiled in. The dress she had worn the day she became his wife, and when the old salon owner carried it away in a white garment bag, something inside Do-yoon hardened. To him, the truth looked simple. His wife, Amara Bennett, had sold their wedding dress. Not a bracelet, not a purse, not some meaningless luxury gift. Their wedding dress. And the only question left in his mind was why. Was it because she no longer cared about their marriage? Was it because every accusation his family had whispered about her was finally true? Or had he been a fool from the beginning, thinking a woman like Amara could ever love a man like him without wanting something in return? The rain fell harder against the windshield. Inside the bridal shop, Amara wiped her eyes quickly before the salon owner could see her cry. Outside, Do-yoon's driver kept both hands on the steering wheel, silent and nervous. "Should I call her, sir?" the driver asked quietly. Do-yoon's face did not move. No. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came right before something broke. He watched Amara take a small envelope from the salon owner. He watched her bow her head. He watched her walk back into the rain without the dress. And by the time she disappeared down the wet sidewalk, Seo Do-yoon had already decided what the scene meant. Betrayal. Where are you watching from? Let me see how far this video travels. And if you enjoy emotional stories about love, betrayal, sacrifice, and the kind of truth that comes out only after everything almost falls apart, make sure you subscribe and stay until the end, because what Do-yoon discovered later about that wedding dress would make him regret every cold word he ever said to his wife. But the truth did not begin in that bridal shop. It began 2 years earlier. Long before the rain, long before the hospital bills, and long before Amara became the most misunderstood woman in one of Seoul's most dangerous families. 2 years earlier, Amara Bennett was not anyone's wife. She was just a young black woman from Atlanta, trying to survive in Seoul. With a sewing kit, a rented room, and a heart full of memories she rarely spoke about. She worked backstage at luxury fashion events, repairing torn gowns, adjusting hems, steaming dresses, and making rich women look flawless before they walked into rooms where no one knew her name. To most people, Amara was invisible, a quiet woman with gentle hands, a foreigner, a worker, someone people called only when something needed fixing. But fabric had always meant more to her than work. When Amara was a child, her mother, Evelyn Bennett, used to sit beside the window in their tiny Atlanta apartment. With a sewing machine humming between them, Evelyn had deep brown skin, tired eyes, and hands that could turn plain cloth into something beautiful. She taught Amara how to stitch slowly, how to feel the grain of fabric, how to respect every thread. Clothes remember, Evelyn used to say. They remember the hands that made them. They remember the person who wore them. They remember love. Amara had not understood it then. She understood it after her mother died. Evelyn had left behind a small box of sketches. Most were unfinished, but one drawing stayed with Amara longer than all the others. A wedding dress. Not a grand palace dress, not something made for showing off. It was modest, elegant, soft, with long sleeves, delicate lace, and a quiet beauty that looked like her mother's soul. On the corner of the sketch, Evelyn had written one line, "For the day my daughter is loved properly." Amara kept that sketch folded between pages of her Bible for years. She told herself she would never marry, unless the man who loved her understood the meaning of that dress. Then she met Seo Do-yoon. It happened at a charity gala in Seoul during winter. The ballroom was filled with wealthy families, celebrities, politicians, and men who smiled like they had secrets under their tongues. Do-yoon entered late. Everyone noticed. Conversations lowered. Heads turned. Not because he was loud. Do-yoon was never loud. He was the kind of man who could silence a room just by walking into it. He wore a black suit with no tie, his black hair brushed back, his face calm, his eyes unreadable. People called him a businessman. Others called him a mafia boss. The truth sat somewhere between those two names, dark and complicated. He had inherited power after his parents died, when he was still young. Power, enemies, companies, debts, family loyalty, and the kind of responsibility that made a boy grow into a cold man before he ever had the chance to be gentle. Do-yoon had learned early that trust was expensive. He had watched relatives fight over inheritance beside his parents' funeral flowers. He had watched business partners bow to his face and betray him behind closed doors. He had watched love become a weapon in the hands of people who wanted access to his name. So he kept everyone at a distance. Then, backstage at that gala, one of the models tore the side seam of a designer gown minutes before she was supposed to appear. People panicked. Assistants shouted. The designer blamed everyone. Amara stepped forward quietly and said, "Give me 5 minutes." No one believed her. Do-yoon watched from the edge of the room as she knelt beside the trembling model and began repairing the gown with calm hands. She did not flatter anyone. She did not panic. She did not even look impressed by the important people around her. When the designer snapped at her, Amara simply looked up and said, "If you keep shouting, your model will cry and ruin her makeup. Let me work." The room froze. No one spoke to people like that in Do-yoon's world, especially not someone who was supposed to be invisible. But Do-yoon almost smiled. Almost. 5 minutes later, the gown was repaired so perfectly that no one could tell it had ever been damaged. The model walked. The event continued. And Do-yoon, who had spent years ignoring beautiful women who tried too hard to catch his attention, found himself watching the quiet seamstress who had not tried at all. He found her later near the service hallway, packing her sewing kit. "You are brave," he said. Amara looked at him, not bowing, not trembling. "I was working," she answered. "Most people are afraid to speak honestly in this building." Then most people must be very tired. That time, Do-yoon did smile. It was small, brief, but Amara saw it. Their story did not become love immediately. Do-yoon did not know how to love quickly. Amara did not trust powerful men easily, but he began finding reasons to appear at events where she worked. A torn cuff, a loose button, a charity gown that needed alteration. Each time, Amara treated him like a man, not a legend. She refused his expensive gifts. She corrected him when he was arrogant. She told him when he looked tired. And once, when a drunk guest insulted her accent and asked if she was one of the hired foreigners, Do-yoon stepped forward, ready to destroy the man with a single sentence. Amara stopped him with one look. Then she faced the guest herself. "I am hired," she said calmly. "But unlike you, I am useful." Do-yoon remembered that line for months. He remembered the dignity in her voice. He remembered how she refused to borrow his power, when she still had her own. Slowly, the wall around him cracked. He told her about his parents, about the funeral, about relatives who smiled while counting what they could take. He told her about his younger sister, Seo Hana, the only person left in his family who made him feel human. Hana was soft, where Do-yoon was hard. She laughed easily. She loved music, pastel sweaters, sweet coffee, and romantic dramas. She accepted Amara before the rest of the family knew what to do with her. "You make my brother less scary," Hana once whispered to Amara. Amara laughed. "I don't think anyone can make your brother less scary." No, Hana said. But when he looks at you, he remembers he has a heart. Do-yoon and Amara married less than a year later. His family called it sudden. The public called it shocking. The gossip blogs called her a foreign bride, a gold digger, an outsider who had somehow captured the most guarded man in Seoul. But Amara ignored them. On her wedding day, she wore the dress inspired by her mother's old sketch. Madame Choi, an elderly bridal salon owner in Cheongdam-dong, helped her make it real. White silk, delicate lace, long sleeves, not too revealing, not too flashy. A dress made for dignity, not attention. When Amara stood before the mirror in it, she thought of her mother's hands. She thought of Atlanta rain hitting old windows. She thought of the words on the sketch. For the day my daughter is loved properly. Do-yoon saw her before the ceremony and forgot how to speak. For a man who commanded rooms, silence was rare. Amara turned and smiled gently. Do I look strange? Do-yoon shook his head. You look like something I do not deserve. She walked toward him and fixed his collar with steady fingers. Then learned to deserve it. That was Amara. Soft, but never weak. Tender, but never small. Their wedding was private. Hana cried through most of it. Mrs. Baek Sun-hee, the housekeeper who had practically raised Do-yoon after his parents died, stood quietly in the back with tears in her eyes. For one brief moment, even the Seo mansion felt warm. But warmth did not last long in a house full of people who profited from coldness. Seo Min-jun was Do-yoon's older cousin. Polished, handsome, elegant, always smiling with his mouth, never with his eyes. He had expected to control parts of the family empire through Do-yoon's marriage. He had expected Do-yoon to marry someone useful, someone from a Korean elite family, someone whose name could strengthen alliances. Instead, Do-yoon married Amara, a foreign woman with no powerful family, no corporate shares, no political connections, and worst of all, a heart Do-yoon actually trusted. Min-jun hated that, but he never showed it directly. Beside him was Yoon Jae-ho, the family lawyer. A man with thin glasses, polished manners, and a voice that made lies sound like legal advice. Yoon knew where the money moved, where the documents were buried, where family secrets slept. And together, he and Min-jun began doing what they did best. They planted doubt, quietly, carefully, never all at once. At dinner, Min-jun would smile and say, Amara must feel lonely here. A woman so far from home must need comfort. Money helps with that, I suppose. When Amara sent money to an old friend in Atlanta, Yoon made sure Do-yoon heard about it without context. When Amara visited Madame Choi's salon to repair a sleeve, Min-jun joked that brides who lingered around bridal shops after marriage were usually unhappy. When Amara spoke privately with Hana, someone always hinted that secrets were dangerous. Do-yoon ignored the first whispers, then the second, then the third. But suspicion does not need proof to grow. It only needs repetition. And Do-yoon was a man trained by life to expect betrayal. Amara noticed the change. At first it was small. Do-yoon stopped asking how her day was. He looked away when she entered rooms. His answers became shorter. His silences became heavier. When she reached for his hand, he let her touch him, but he no longer held back. Did I do something? She asked one night. They were standing on the balcony corridor after a family dinner where Min-jun had smiled too much. Do-yoon looked out at the city. You tell me. Amara stared at him. What does that mean? It means I am beginning to realize there are parts of you I do not know. Her face tightened, but she kept her voice calm. There are parts of everyone you do not know. That does not make them guilty. He turned to her then. For a second, she saw the man she had married beneath the coldness, wounded, afraid, trying not to need her. Then the wall came back. Good night, Amara. He walked away, and she stood there, alone in the corridor, wondering when love had become a courtroom. Then Hannah got worse. At first, Hannah tried to hide it. A trembling hand, a sudden pause while climbing the stairs, a smile that came too slowly. Amara noticed before anyone else. One afternoon, she found Hannah gripping the hallway wall, her face pale. "Hannah?" "I'm fine," Hannah whispered. Amara did not believe her. Minutes later, Hannah nearly collapsed in the sitting room. Mrs. Beck rushed in. Amara held Hannah against her chest and called Dr. Park Yoon-so, the family's trusted cardiothoracic surgeon. The hospital tests were quiet, private, and frightening. Dr. Park did not exaggerate. She did not need to. Hannah needed urgent treatment. Not someday. Not next month. Soon. The money was not the problem, Amara thought at first. Do-yoon had more than enough. The Seo family had more than enough. But Hannah begged her not to tell him. "Please," Hannah whispered from the hospital bed. "He already carries too much. If he knows now, he'll stop everything. He'll cancel meetings. He'll blame himself. He'll look at me like I'm breaking. Hannah, he loves you. I know. That's why I can't breathe when he looks scared." Amara held her hand. "You cannot hide something this serious. Just until the first payment is handled. Please. I'll tell him after. I promise." Amara should have refused. But she loved Hannah. And she understood what it meant to want to protect someone from fear. So she went to Yoon Jae-ho. She thought, as the family lawyer, he could quietly arrange the hospital payment without creating panic. Yoon listened carefully. Fingers folded on his desk. "Hannah asked you not to involve Do-yoon?" he asked. "For now," Amara said. "Only until she is stable. And you want discretion. I want her treated." Yoon nodded slowly. "I will see what can be done." But the moment Amara left his office, Yoon called Min-jun, and the trap began. Yoon told Amara there were complications. Administrative delays, family approvals, locked accounts, hospital timing issues, words that sounded official enough to frighten her. Amara sold jewelry first, small pieces, personal things, then bags Do-yoon had given her that she had never cared about, then designer coats she barely wore. Every payment helped, but not enough. The deposit remained impossible. At the hospital payment office, Amara stood with a folder in her hands and felt the world narrow around her. Hannah's treatment could move forward if the payment was made. If not, everything would slow down. And Hannah did not have time for slow. That night, Amara returned to the mansion and opened the closet where her wedding dress was stored. The dress hung inside its protective garment bag, untouched, and glowing softly in the dim light. For a long time, Amara could not move. She reached for the zipper, stopped, closed her eyes, and saw her mother's sketch, "For the day my daughter is loved properly." A tear slid down her cheek. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered. "But love is not cloth." Mrs. Beck found her standing there. The older woman understood before Amara spoke. "No," Mrs. Beck said softly. Amara looked at her. "Hannah needs it. Does Master Do-yoon know?" Amara shook her head. Mrs. Beck's eyes filled with worry. "Child, secrets become knives in this house." "I know. Then why carry one?" "Because Hannah asked me to. Because she is scared. Because if I can save her without making her feel like a burden, then I have to try." Mrs. Beck stepped closer. "And who will save you?" Amara did not answer. The next morning, she left the mansion carrying the dress. Kang Tae-sik, the family driver, saw her. Kang was not evil. He was weak. And weak men are easy to use when powerful men know where to press. Min-jun had already frightened him. Yoon had already instructed him. Report where Amara goes. Report who she meets. Report what she carries. So Kang followed. He watched Amara enter Madame Choi's bridal salon. He sent the location. He sent the time. He sent enough for Yoon to twist. Inside the salon, Madame Choi recognized the dress immediately. She touched the garment bag as if touching a memory. "You cannot be here to sell this." Amara's lips trembled. "I need to." "Did something happen to your marriage?" Amara shook her head too quickly. "Number. It is not that." "Then let me lend you the money." "No. Amara, I cannot owe more kindness than I can repay." Madame Choi studied her face. Then she said quietly, "This dress was made from love." Amara swallowed. "That is why it has to become love again." Madame Choi did not fully understand, but she understood pain. She gave Amara what she could. More than resale value. Less than the dress deserved. No amount could have matched what it cost Amara to let it go. That was the moment Do-yoon saw her from the sedan. He saw the dress leave. He saw the envelope. He did not see the hospital bill. He did not see Hana's trembling hands. He did not see Amara crying in the restroom before she walked back into the rain. He saw only what Min-jun and Yoon had prepared him to see. A wife selling the symbol of their marriage. That same day, Amara paid the hospital deposit. At the private billing office, she handed over the envelope with steady hands. The clerk processed the payment. No one clapped. No one thanked her loudly. No music swelled. Love, in real life, often happens quietly at counters where no one knows the story. Later, Amara sat beside Hana's bed. Hana looked at her face and understood. "What did you do?" Hana whispered. "Nothing you need to worry about. Amara, rest." But Hana saw the missing ring of pain around Amara's eyes. She saw the way Amara's fingers kept touching empty air, as if searching for fabric that was no longer there. "You sold something," Hana said. Amara smiled gently, but it broke halfway. It was just cloth. Hana began to cry. "It was not just cloth." "No," Amara admitted, "but you are not cloth either." When Do-yoon returned to the mansion that night, the closet was empty. The garment bag was gone. He stood in front of the space where the dress had been, saying nothing. Amara entered behind him and froze. He did not turn around immediately. "When were you going to tell me?" Her chest tightened. "Do-yoon." He turned then. His eyes were colder than she had ever seen them. "How much did you get for it?" She flinched. "Please don't ask me like that." "Like what?" "Like I stole from you." His jaw tightened. "Did you sell it?" "Yes." "Then answer the question." Amara looked at him, exhausted, heartbroken, still thinking of Hana's promise. "I cannot tell you everything right now." The wrong sentence. At the wrong time. To the wrong man. Do-yoon's face closed. "Of course." "Do-yoon, please." "No. I understand. You don't." "I understand enough." Mrs. Baek stood near the doorway, helpless. Amara wanted to scream the truth. She wanted to tell him his sister was lying pale in a hospital bed, that every stitch of that dress had become a chance for Hana to live, that the money had never touched her own life for even a second. But she had promised Hana. And Hana was already fragile, so Amara stayed silent. And Do-yoon mistook her silence for guilt. The next morning, the house changed. Do-yoon spoke to Amara like a guest, polite, formal, cruel only because he refused to be anything else. At breakfast, he did not look at her. When she asked if he would be home for dinner, he answered, "There is no need for you to wait." Min-jun watched from across the room, lifting his teacup slowly. Mrs. Baek saw everything. She saw Amara fold her hands beneath the table so no one would see them tremble. She saw Do-yoon's jaw tighten every time Amara breathed too close. She saw a marriage turning cold, because no one had the courage or permission to speak. At the hospital, Hana could no longer bear it. When Amara came to see her, Hana grabbed her wrist. "Tell him." "No. He hates you because of me." He does not hate me. Don't lie to make me feel better. Amara's eyes filled. You are not responsible for what others misunderstand. But I am responsible for letting you suffer. Hana tried to sit up too quickly, and Amara stopped her. Please, Amara said. Do not make yourself worse. Just then, Do-yoon appeared at the doorway. He had come after receiving another carefully incomplete update from Yoon. From where he stood, he saw Hana crying. He saw Amara stopping her from speaking. He saw secrecy. Again. His face hardened. Amara turned and saw him. For 1 second, all three of them froze. Hana opened her mouth. Amara shook her head. Barely. Do-yoon saw that too. He stepped back. The door remained open, but the distance between them became enormous. Later, in the corridor, Dr. Park found Amara standing alone. One hand pressed against the wall, as if holding herself upright. You cannot carry this forever, Dr. Park said softly. Amara looked at her. I only need to carry it until Hana is safe. And if carrying it destroys you? Amara did not answer, because in her heart, she had already decided that Hana's life mattered more than her own reputation. But secrets do not stay noble forever. Sometimes they become poison, even when they are born from love. That evening, Hana refused to stay silent. She asked Dr. Park to help her leave for a short while. Dr. Park said it was risky. Hana said, Then let me risk it for the woman who risked everything for me. Amara begged her not to go. Hana took her hand. You protected me because you loved me. Now let me protect you because I love you too. Amara broke then. Not loudly, just one tear, then another. Together, they returned to the CO mansion. Mrs. Beck was the first to see them. Her eyes widened. Do-yoon stepped into the entrance hall, still in his black suit, his face guarded and tired. Amara supported Hana carefully. Hana looked pale, but her eyes were clear. Appa, Hana whispered. Do-yoon moved toward her immediately. What are you doing here? You should be at the hospital. I came because you would not listen to her. His eyes flicked to Amara. Amara looked down. Hana tightened her grip on Amara's hand. She sold the dress for me. The room went silent. Do-yoon stared at his sister. Hana's voice shook, but she continued. My treatment, the deposit, the payment you thought she hid from you. It was for me. Do-yoon did not move. Hana began to cry. I asked her not to tell you. I was scared. I did not want you to look at me like I was dying. I did not want to become another burden in your life. Hana, listen to me. She begged me to tell you. She wanted to tell you. I made her promise. And while you were punishing her, she was the only reason I got treated. Do-yoon's face changed. Not all at once. First confusion, then denial, then horror. He looked at Amara. She still would not defend herself. Even now, she looked more worried about Hana standing too long than about her own vindication. Dr. Park arrived soon after, serious and urgent. Hana needs to return now, she said. The emotional truth had arrived, but the medical danger had not waited politely. Do-yoon acted at once. The cold husband disappeared. The protective brother returned. He ordered the car. Lee Jin-woo appeared at the entrance, alert and silent. Amara helped Hana into the black sedan. Do-yoon sat across from them as rain began falling again over Seoul. Inside the car, the silence was unbearable. Amara held Hana close, whispering for her to breathe slowly. Do-yoon watched her hands. Those same hands he had accused. Those same hands had sold the dress, paid the bill, held his sister, protected his family. And he had looked at those hands like they were guilty. His throat tightened. He wanted to speak, to apologize, to ask forgiveness. But Hana's breathing was uneven, and Amara's attention was fully on her, so Do-yoon said nothing. The hospital swallowed them in blue-white light. Dr. Park and the medical team took Hana into urgent care. Amara followed until she was stopped at the corridor. Do-yoon stood behind her, helpless for the first time in years. Lee Jin-woo approached quietly. Do-yoon did not look away from the corridor doors. "Find out who knew," he said. Jin-woo understood. "Everything? Everything." That night, while Hana was being prepared for treatment, Jin-woo began pulling at the threads of the lie. He started with Kang Tae-sik. In the underground garage, Kang could barely meet his eyes. Jin-woo did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply asked the right questions in a calm voice. "Who told you to follow Mrs. Seo?" Kang swallowed. "I was only asked to report movements." "By whom?" Silence. Jin-woo stepped closer. "Kang, a woman sold her wedding dress to save Miss Hana. Someone turned that into betrayal. If you stay silent now, you are still helping them." Kang's eyes filled with shame. He looked toward the black sedan. Then he whispered, "Lawyer Yoon." "And Min-jun?" Kang closed his eyes. "Yes." Jin-woo brought the confession to Do-yoon. But Do-yoon wanted more than words. He wanted proof strong enough to crush every lie he had trusted. Jin-woo went to Madame Choi's bridal salon before dawn. The old woman opened the door in a robe and cardigan, her face tightening when she saw him. "Is Amara in trouble?" she asked. Jin-woo paused. "She has been in trouble for a long time." Madame Choi brought out the garment bag. She had not resold the dress. Something about Amara's face that day had stopped her. "I could not let it go," Madame Choi said quietly. "Not yet." She showed him the sale envelope, the preserved lace, her own record of the transaction, though Jin-woo did not need to read every word to understand the timeline. "She said it was not the end of her marriage," Madame Choi said. "She said the dress had to become love again." Jin-woo carried that sentence back like evidence no document could match. Dr. Park confirmed the payment. The amount, the timing, the fact that it had been made directly toward Hana's treatment. When Do-yoon heard everything, he stood in the VIP hospital corridor holding a small lace piece from the dress. The lace looked fragile between his fingers, too delicate for a man who had broken so much with silence. He remembered Amara on their wedding day. "You look like something I do not deserve. Then learn to deserve it." He had failed. Not because he had been tricked. Being tricked was not the deepest wound. He had failed because he had believed the trick so easily, because the world had taught him to expect betrayal. And instead of fighting that fear, he had handed it a weapon and aimed it at his wife. Kang confessed fully before sunrise. In a private side office inside the mansion, he stood with his head bowed while Do-yoon listened. "I followed her," Kang admitted. "I sent locations, times, photos. I did not know about Miss Hana at first. Later, I suspected something. But Mr. Yoon told me not to ask questions." Yoon stood near the wall, expression controlled but tight. Min-jun stood beside him, face cold. Do-yoon looked at Kang. "Did my wife ever meet another man?" "No, sir." "Did she ever take money for herself?" "No, sir." "Did she ever speak against this family?" Kang's voice broke. "No, sir. She only asked how to protect Miss Hana without frightening you." Do-yoon closed his eyes. That answer hurt more than any insult could have. When he opened them again, he turned to Yoon. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Do-yoon, emotions are high. I would advise—" "You no longer advise me." Yoon's mouth closed. Min-jun gave a slow, humorless smile. "Careful, cousin. You are blaming everyone else because you feel guilty." Do-yoon stepped toward him. No shouting, no violence, just a quietness that made the room colder. "I am guilty," Do-yoon said. "But so are you." Min-jun's smile faded. "You used my fear," Do-yoon continued. "You used Hana's illness. You used Amara's silence. You turned sacrifice into suspicion because you could not control a woman who loved me without needing your permission." Minjun said nothing. For the first time, he had no elegant answer ready. Do-yoon looked at Jin-woo. "Remove them from every family matter. Freeze every account connected to their authority. Preserve all records." Quietly, Yoon's face paled. Minjun's eyes sharpened with rage. Do-yoon did not care. His power had spent too long protecting pride. Now it would protect the truth. But punishing the villains did not heal Amara. When Do-yoon returned to the hospital, he found her in the waiting area, sitting alone. Her cream blouse was wrinkled. Her eyes were red. She looked smaller than he remembered, not because she was weak, but because she had spent days carrying pain no one helped her hold. He stopped a few feet away. For once, he did not know how to approach his own wife, Amara. She looked up. Her face changed when she saw him. Not with anger. That would have been easier. She looked guarded. Tired. As if she had learned not to expect tenderness from him. That nearly destroyed him. "Hana is still inside," she said quietly. "Dr. Park said we have to wait." "I know." Silence stretched between them. He looked at the chair beside her but did not sit. He had lost the right to assume closeness. "I know everything," he said. Amara's fingers tightened in her lap. "Then you know Hana needs peace. Please do not blame her." Do-yoon's throat burned. Even now, she protected someone else. "I do not blame Hana." "Good. I blame myself." Amara looked away. The words were not enough. He knew that. So he lowered himself to his knees in front of her, in a hospital waiting area, in his expensive black suit. With staff passing quietly in the distance, Seo Do-yoon, a man feared across Seoul, knelt before the woman he had failed. Amara stared at him, shocked. "Do-yoon, don't. I accused you with my silence before I ever asked you for the truth." Her eyes filled. "I tried to tell you there was more. I know. You looked at me like I was dirty." His face tightened with pain. "I know. You let them make me a stranger in my own home. I know." Her voice cracked. "You made me feel like loving your family was a crime." Do-yoon bowed his head. There was no defense. No explanation worthy of the damage. "I am sorry," he whispered. Amara covered her mouth, not because she forgave him, but because the apology reached the part of her that had been waiting to stop bleeding. "I do not know if I can trust you with my heart right now," she said. He nodded. "You should not have to." That surprised her. He lifted his eyes. "Do not forgive me because I am sorry. Do not come back because I ask. I will spend whatever time you give me proving that I can hear you before I judge you." Amara cried silently. Do-yoon did not touch her. He waited. After a long moment, she reached down and placed her hand over his. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But not rejection either. Then the hospital doors opened. Dr. Park stepped out. Both of them stood at once. Hana's treatment had gone forward. The danger was not completely gone, but the first major step had succeeded. Hana was stable. Amara broke down then. Do-yoon caught himself before reaching too quickly. "This time?" he asked. "May I?" Amara looked at him through tears. Then she nodded. He held her carefully, as if she were something sacred he had once dropped, and was terrified to break again. Days passed. Hana recovered slowly. The mansion changed too. Yoon Jae-ho disappeared from the family office. Seo Min-jun's polished smile no longer opened doors. Kang Tae-sik was removed from his position, though Amara asked that he not be destroyed. "He was weak," she said. "That is not the same as being the architect." Do-yoon looked at her with quiet disbelief. "After what he did, I am not asking you to trust him. I am asking you not to become cruel because you are guilty." That was the thing about Amara. Even wounded, She still knew where mercy ended and justice began. Mrs. Beck began bringing tea to Amara's room again. But Amara did not move back into the main bedroom immediately. Do-yoon did not ask her to. Every night, he stood outside her door, wished her good night, and left. No pressure, no demand, no wounded pride. For the first time, he loved her without trying to possess her forgiveness. One afternoon, Madame Choi came to the hospital. In her hands was the white garment bag. Amara saw it and stood frozen. "Madame Choi?" The old woman smiled softly. "I told myself I was waiting for the right buyer, but I think I was waiting for the truth." She opened the bag. The wedding dress was still there. The silk had been cleaned, the lace repaired, every delicate piece preserved. Amara touched it with trembling fingers. "I sold it." Madame Choi shook her head. "No, you transformed it." Do-yoon stood behind Amara, his eyes wet. "I bought it back," he said quietly, "but only because Madame Choi allowed me to. And only after she made me promise I understood that money was not what returned it." Amara looked at him. "What did?" He swallowed. "The truth, and the fact that you never stopped loving us, even when we gave you every reason to." Amara looked back at the dress. For the first time since selling it, she thought of her mother without shame. Love is not cloth, but sometimes cloth remembers love. Weeks later, when Hannah was strong enough to stand in the garden, Mrs. Beck arranged a small private ceremony. No media, no family elders, no business partners, no one who needed to be impressed. Just Hannah in a soft pastel cardigan, Mrs. Beck crying before anything even started, Madame Choi adjusting the sleeve of the restored dress, and Do-yoon standing beneath pale morning light, waiting for Amara. When she stepped into the garden wearing the dress again, Do-yoon did not react like the first time. The first time, he had thought she looked like something he did not deserve. This time, he knew it. Amara walked toward him slowly. Her curls framed her face. Her eyes were steady. The dress moved softly around her. No longer just a wedding dress. It was a witness. To love. To misunderstanding. To sacrifice. To a woman who had been accused because she chose silence for someone else's sake. Do-yoon took her hands. His voice was low. "I cannot erase what I did." "No," Amara said. "I cannot return the nights you cried alone. No. I cannot ask you to pretend the wound was smaller than it was." She looked at him for a long moment. "Then what can you do?" He held her gaze. He held her gaze. "I can believe you before I fear losing you. I can ask before I accuse. I can protect your dignity even when I do not understand your silence. And I can spend my life learning how to love you properly." Amara's eyes filled again. But this time, the tears were different. Not painless, but softer. She thought of her mother's sketch. "For the day my daughter is loved properly." Maybe proper love was not love without mistakes. Maybe it was love that stopped hiding behind pride. Love that listened. Love that repaired what it tore. Love that learned the cost of silence, and never again confused sacrifice for betrayal. Hannah stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "You both look like a drama ending," she whispered. Mrs. Beck sniffed loudly. "It is better than a drama. In dramas, people take too long to explain." Amara laughed. A real laugh. Small, but real. Do-yoon looked at her like a starving man seeing morning. And for the first time in weeks, the garden did not feel like part of a mansion built on power. It felt like a home. Later, after everyone left them alone, Do-yoon and Amara stood beneath the quiet trees. He did not kiss her immediately. He did not assume. He simply held her hand. "May I walk with you?" he asked. Amara looked down at their joined hands. Then she nodded. They walked slowly through the garden, the restored dress brushing against the grass. Behind them, the mansion stood silent. Ahead of them, The path was uncertain. But this time, Do-yoon did not walk in front of her like a man leading, and Amara did not walk behind him like a woman following. They walked side by side, not because everything was fixed, but because the truth had finally been given room to breathe. And because sometimes, the most powerful love stories are not about the people who never break. They are about the people who learn, painfully and humbly, that trust is not proven when everything looks perfect. Trust is proven in the moment, when the truth is hidden. The evidence looks ugly. And love has to decide whether to ask one more question before it condemns. Seo Do-yoon learned that lesson too late to avoid hurting Amara, but not too late to spend the rest of his life honoring the woman who sold her wedding dress. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she loved his family more than he understood. And in the end, the dress did come back. But Amara was never the same woman who had worn it before. She was stronger, quieter, wiser. And finally, loved by a man who knew that if he ever forgot her worth again, he would not just lose his wife. He would lose the woman who had saved the heart of his family, when everyone else was too blind to see her. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments. Would you have forgiven Do-yoon after everything Amara went through? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who believes love should never be judged before the truth is heard.